Hello and welcome to this slideshow video of the making of the Dark Knight Rises lobby poster. I wanted to share with you the process that was involved with creating this lobby poster so you too can see what was involved in bringing it to life. I was inspired to undertake this project by several world-class illustrators such as Drew Struzan, John Alvin and Mark Ratz. I have primarily worked in the digital domain, so this project represents my first foray into the realm of traditional illustration. Here is a list of some of the tools that I used to create this poster. The poster was completed over a 6-month period, with much of the work undertaken in between other projects. Let's get started. I started off by applying gesso to some masonite. The gesso was mixed with some black acrylic to give that mid-grey tone. The gesso was applied in 2 coats. Each coat I used various brush techniques to create textures on the board to give the illustration an extra dimension. Once the gesso was fully cured, I began penciling the outline of my comp onto the board. Once the basic outline was done, I began drawing each of the characters, starting with Bane and then working my way through to Batman. I started with a 2H pencil and gradually worked my way to a 6B pencil, working on all parts of the illustration. As you can see, I always had my reference material close by. Here you can see a comparison between A4, A3 and the actual illustration to get an indication of size. Much of the time I was working all over the illustration, bringing up all parts of it to get a nice balanced look. Gotham City was very tiresome to draw with all those windows. Once the pencil work had been completed, I then began using an acrylic wash with a mixture of dark greys to fill in the illustration. I also applied some brush spatter technique to the illustration just to add some more interesting detail. Once the majority of the dark areas were covered, it was then off to start airbrushing and blending the areas. Matter of repeatedly going over with the airbrush to darken areas. Here you can see some video footage of some brush work where I was using an acrylic wash to bring up Catwoman's hair and features in multiple layers, just darkening areas as I go. Now you get an idea of where the illustration is heading. Here we have a close-up of Batman, and even tighter close-up so you can see some of the texture that the gesso layer adds to the illustration. And likewise, here is Catwoman after some airbrush had been applied to her face. And here's another close-up so you can see some of the texture of the gesso, particularly in the moon. Really helps to bring out that crater-like effect. At this point in time I had done some white airbrushing, some white acrylics over the moon to start bringing the whites up and the highlights. The illustration was in Titan using Prismacolor pencils. It was a repetitive process of going backwards and forwards between airbrush and Prismacolor. I saved Gotham City for last because I knew that would be the most tedious part of the illustration and would require 100% focus. You'll notice that I've actually redone one of the big buildings in Gotham City because I wasn't happy with the way it came out. At this point in the illustration, it was just a matter of tightening it further using Prismacolor pencils and doing minor touch-ups with the airbrush. So here you can see the final illustrated poster as it was scanned in. Thank you for joining me and watching this illustrative journey on creating the Dark Knight Rises lobby poster. Thanks for all your support.